I met my husband in law school, and I knew then that he was in the military, but I had no idea what that really and truly meant and what it looked like. We have been married for 3 years now. We've known each other for about 10 though. And so I am a relatively new military spouse, 3 years of experience underneath my belt. And I think that, being new to marriage in general, but also being new to the military, there's definitely been a really big learning curve. And this has been our first duty station, so I haven't actually PCS'd or done any of the really hard stuff. We're preparing for our first one right now. Since coming to Fort Polk, we've dropped 2 babies. So they are 13 months apart, and I have a little boy and a little girl. I am licensed in the state of Alabama, and I'm not sure how other professions work, but in the legal field, you have to be licensed by the state bar of every state that you reside in and that you wish to practice in. So that in and of itself creates hurdles, professional and career hurdles for sure. But also in a profession, in a career like the legal world, longevity and being in one place for a long time to establish yourself is super important as well. So the military lifestyle is not super conducive to any of that. And I'll be completely honest, I've struggled a lot with trying to find a job. And luckily, this season of life that we're in right now, we wanted to go ahead and start a family, and we've done that. We've done very well at that so far. But so I've been blessed enough that I have not had to work, and that is not something that every military spouse can say. And so I certainly recognize the blessing of that, of being able to stay at home with my children, and to stay at home in these young years has been a big blessing, and I can't stress that enough. But it's definitely a sacrifice that I've had to make as well. I went from being a full-time professional to being a full-time stay-at-home wife and mom, and not necessarily by choice, if I'm being honest. For me, I was in private practice, just general, doing wills and trusts and estates and criminal defense and family law and all sorts of things, and that is just really hard to start over and to repeat everywhere you go, and not to mention the licensure struggles and hurdles that you have to overcome every PCS. So far here in Louisiana, I have not been able to find a job. Even though I had 2 kids, there was a period of time that I was looking very hard, and I did have some great resources here on post, and I did have a few wonderful military advocates that were fighting for me, but it still was to no avail. And at this juncture today, while I'm having this interview, I don't have an answer for that. My answer is that I haven't so far. And sorry.
No.
That can be hard. That can be really hard. And how do you keep something like that? I mean, first and foremost, I'm keeping my requirements alive, and I'm keeping my fees and my licensures and all of that. I'm staying on top of it so that I can practice if the opportunity presents itself. But that's also a burden too, because it's expensive and it's not convenient. A lot of times I have to go back to the state of Alabama to kind of accomplish those things. But it's important to me at this point, and it is an investment for the future, and it's an investment in myself, and it matters, and it matters to my husband as well. And we are just truly and fully relying on the grace of the Lord, and praying that answers will come and that opportunities will come. I fully believe that I'm right in the middle of God's will for me, that I'm right where I'm supposed to be, and I know that none of my education or my history or my upbringing or my training or my experience, I know that none of that is wasted, and I know that none of that's a mistake. I can't wait to be able to sit in the seat and tell you what the answer to that is. Just in full disclosure and just being completely candid, we're not there yet. I'm not there yet. And that doesn't mean that I've given up hope. I continue to search for those opportunities and for a way that I can incorporate all of that into my life on a more regular basis. But I haven't found the answer to it yet, and I have faith that I will. All of this story is just, it's not finished being written yet.
It is common for you, friend, and that I just really admire your faithfulness and your dedication to your family, and that you believe that it's going to be your turn, and it will be your turn.
He wastes nothing, and I know that his plan for me is bigger than what I see right now, and I know that my job right now is to be a mother, is to be a wife, is to support my husband while he chases his dreams and his career and does what he needs to do. Nothing else is more important than that right now, and I know that the rest of it will kind of figure itself out, and I just truly have faith in that. I have to have faith in that. Even when I struggle with things like my identity and my purpose and reconciling my passions with my lifestyle, he's always got this gentle reminder that there is community here, and this sense of community has always been important to me as a Christian and as a woman, but there is just something really special about being in a military community that I truly was not able to understand or appreciate until I was here. And even though I'm a new spouse, I've only got 3 years of experience, I can say without a doubt that this is something really special to be a part of, and that these women in particular, but all of these families just have a bond that you can't explain and that you can't put any words to, and it matters and it makes a difference. We truly carry the load for one another, even though we haven't gone through particularly difficult deployments or death or some of the harder things that you can immediately point to when you think about military life. There's just still so much smaller stuff that ways that our lives are just truly harder than the average Americans, and it's so great to be part of a community of people who understand that and appreciate that without ever having to say anything out loud. You just get each other, and without that sense of community, this would be impossible. This would be an impossible lifestyle to live, and I just think that's part of God's beautiful gift in all of this, is that where we sacrifice, He blesses even more abundantly. When you're moving communities and uprooting your life every 2 to 3 years, you can't afford to waste time. And it is one of the most intimidating things about this lifestyle, but it's also one of the biggest gifts of this lifestyle too, is that when you know you can't afford to waste time, you just jump in with both feet, because you have to. Me personally, I don't live on post, and I think that was a little bit of a hindrance at first, because like I said, this is our first duty station, and it was easy to hide behind that excuse when we first moved here, and to kind of isolate myself as like, oh, well, I don't live on post, and so I don't have neighbors or community, and that was just a lie. I just had to find other ways to get involved, and as soon as I did, I didn't regret it. This community has been just an incredible gift to me and to my husband both, and to our family. And we've grown so much as people and as individuals and as a family and as a couple, and I wouldn't trade a minute of it for anything else in the world. I really wouldn't. This idea that everybody in the military signs up for patriotic duty and they want to serve their country, and that they're proud to stand next to their brother or to potentially put their life at risk for their sister, and that's not how it is. It just isn't. And a lot of different reasons bring people to the military, but and you have a very eclectic sort of people that you end up in doing everyday life with. It's really hard, especially when you're turning around and you're justifying stepping away from a career, and you're kind of putting on this front to your friends and family about, yes, it's hard, but we're managing, and it's all for the greater good and everything. But then at home, when you're just being honest with your husband and your best friend, and you're like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And that's one of the hardest adjustments that I had to learn how to kind of overcome is, but you know what? That's part of ministry too, is that like people are disappointing. Yeah. And people are gonna disappoint us, and they're gonna disappoint you. But that doesn't mean that it's not worth it, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't matter, because it does. Mm-hmm. Investing in people, and that's what I try to remind my husband every day when he comes home, is that like ultimately the mission matters, and like the paycheck matters, and surviving and living and thriving, all of that matters temporarily. But the only thing that lasts is relationships. Mm-hmm. and people is our life's work. That's what God has called us to do. And so, it matters, the interactions that you have with these soldiers and with these spouses and wives and families. Like, at the end of the day, we have to keep our sight on what's important